Okay, I'm Christina McKelvey, MSP for Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse.
Hi, my name is Angela Crawley. I am the Political Education Convener for the Young Scots for Independence.
My name is Fiona Hislop. I'm MSP for Linlithgow and the Cabinet Secretary for Culture and External Affairs.
I think I was about 9 years old when I saw somebody being cruel to a dog, and I took courage and phoned the SSPCA to ask them to look into it. So I suppose that's not party political, but that's starting to be involved in things even at a young age. And the family was always very political, arguing and discussing. My father was a member of the SNP, I supported Labour, I talked about tartan Tories and all that rubbish. Eventually I went to a place where the Labour Party had no chance. It was in Galloway, and for the very first time I voted SNP tactically, and then of course I didn't know I hadn't done it before, but I understand why people find it difficult to move from political parties.
Hello, I'm Fiona MacLeod. I'm the SNP MSP for Strathkelvin and Bearsden.
I'm Rosanna Cunningham. I'm the MSP for what is now Perthshire South in Kinrossshire, and I'm also the Minister for Community Safety and Legal Affairs.
Okay. Hi, I'm Claire Adamson. I'm a Central Scotland member of the Scottish Parliament and also still a councillor in North Lanarkshire.
My name's Jean Urquhart and I'm the Regional MSP for Highlands and Islands.
Hi, I'm Gail Lithgow. I'm 23 years old. I'm currently convener of SNP students.
For me, what inspired me to get involved in politics was when I first learned modern studies at high school, and from there I think it seemed a natural foregone conclusion that I would go to university and study politics.
But also I had a wonderful mentor. The candidate in that year, 1974, was Margaret Bain. And Margaret Bain was a wonderful mentor to me. She took me as a young lassie of 16 and she guided me through the party for many, many years. And it's through people like that that I think it gives women, especially young women, the confidence to go forward because someone has told them, yes, you're good enough.
I really first became interested in politics so long ago. It really is in the last century. It was in the 1960s when I was still a teenager in Australia, and it was stirred by my passion really for my homeland, Scotland. And I think interestingly enough, when I first wrote to the SNP, it was shortly after the Hamilton by-election in 1967. I was still 15 and Winnie Ewing had won the Hamilton by-election, and that message had gone around the world that Scotland was changing, and I really desperately wanted to be a part of that.
I joined the SNP in the early 1990s following the closure of Ravenscraig, which I felt was going to devastate my home area in Lanarkshire for generations to come, and I think that's been proven to be true. I didn't think I would be a politician full-time at that time. I worked in information technology and worked with the British Computer Society at that time, trying to promote women in technology. I was very aware of disparities in pay, even in such a new organisation.
The answer to politics isn't that clear, and it's one of the things that I love about it is that there never is a right or wrong answer sometimes. As a young woman in politics, I think it's important that more women come forward in politics and that we can encourage more women to be seen, to be involved, to be active, and hopefully I think within the Young Scots for Independence movement and going forward towards the Scottish National Party we can see more women coming through the ranks and hopefully becoming a success.
So the route for me has been through that kind of community activism, and I think I need to persuade more women that the natural step from the work that they do in their communities is to become more politically involved.
So, the reason why I got involved in politics is I grew up in the East End of Glasgow in an area called Easterhouse, and when I was a young person there was lots of schemes and initiatives and projects for domestic violence, gang culture, drugs, alcohol, but they seemed to be job creation schemes for Labour councillors and their friends. So at a very early age I started to realise there was a bit of injustice in all of this because I didn't see any change to any of these issues. I seen lots of shiny cars and people in their shiny cars, you know, in vans and nice offices, and didn't actually see much difference in the community. At the same time we had two families moved into the area who were Vietnamese refugees, and for part of the time they were there they were treated very, very well, and there were some other people who didn't treat them so well, so we got involved with them supporting them, supporting their family. They got involved in the local church. So probably from a very early teenager, I was, very aware of, how the world treats people, and certainly how communities can react in a very positive way, and in some cases a negative way, but mostly positive. But the big issue for me was about how do you treat people well, what kind of area do you want to live in, and do you want that area to be well funded, a very, very strong community spirit where everybody looks after everybody. So I didn't see that from the Labour councillors running their initiatives, and I certainly didn't see it from some people who were quite nasty to the refugees in the area. So at the same time, I started to get involved at the age of 15 with CND. So I started to go to rallies and marches, condemning nuclear weapons.
A lady who lived in Musselburgh called Anne Raitt. She's now dead, but she's a very interesting woman who ran a timber business when her husband died. She was a businesswoman. And she phoned me up one night and said, Christine, why don't you go to the Bridge of Allen, because the SNP are having a sort of session with women in the party to see, right? But they were paying for it, so it sounded like a good idea to me to have fun. And so I went to the Bridge of Allen.
When I joined the party, we had a fantastic women's group. At that time, you must remember, we had a handful of MSPs and very few councillors across the country. And that women's group, I remember being led by the likes of Christine Graham, Fiona Hislop, Linda Fabiani. We had networking events, we had training events for women who were interested in politics and the party, and it was a very supportive and very active network. We then got electoral success and all these people who had been leading that organisation went on to be our politicians of today.
I got involved in politics first when I did work experience with Stuart Maxwell, and at that point it was the last stages of the smoking bill in Parliament, and I was quite inspired by the work that you're able to achieve through Parliament, and I then got involved with the youth and student wings of the SNP.
Even though we can have a track record, my first political campaign was to get my school all those years ago to allow girls to wear trousers, not skirts. Now it sounds trivial nowadays, but that was a big breakthrough for me.
So we grew up in a very political household with lots of information. We learned all our Scottish history from our parents because we didn't get it at school. So you can see, building up to me being a teenager, being quite an active, politically active person. I wouldn't say completely party political at that point, but very sort of a justice orientated and looking at the world in the grand scheme of things. When I got a bit older and I started to work, I became a trade unionist and I got involved in the trade union movement, but even then my nationalist roots had taken root there, and I started to take forward some of these issues within the trade union, and myself and a friend of mine who was in the trade union movement at the time got the Glasgow Unison City branch to adopt a position that they would have support a referendum on independence. So that is a stated position to this date, so we're hoping that Unison are going to come on board.
Women in the party, not just those of us who've been elected already and are already holding some form of office, but ordinary women in the party, to really look out for and encourage young women when they see those young women becoming involved and active. It's tough if you have a family, I don't deny that, but there are ways the party can adapt to that, and I think we really do have to do that.
In order to get more young women involved, I think we need to do a lot to change the attitudes of everyone involved in the youth and student wings. I think we need to make those involved more aware that special attention might need to be paid and special effort might need to be made to get more young women involved.
Women need to feel welcomed involving themselves in politics, whether it's locally or nationally. They also have to make sure that the issues that matter to them, whether it's to do with issues to do with fairness and equality, whether it's to do with international activities, whether it's to do with their family and school and education and childcare, whether it's to do with their local communities. These things are all political, but people don't necessarily see them that way. And women are quite often the ones that will get things done, whether it's in local communities or indeed in other campaigns. And so if you want to try and change something, you can moan about it or you can get involved. But in order to get more women involved, I think everybody has to take responsibility. Women quite often have to be asked before they become involved. Men quite often will put themselves forward without being asked. Issues about involvement and participation of women in politics should not be seen just as some women's issue. It's an issue for men, and it's about time that more men took responsibility to make sure the politics of all of us reflects the community and the society in which we live.